Well, hurricane season, that's a little more than 6 weeks away, and scientists are predicting an active season with more than a dozen named storms possible. That's why meteorologist Steve Fundero tells us preparedness is key in this story, new at 5.
Yeah, Tom, lots of uncertainty going into hurricane season, but one thing we do know, you need to be prepared. So it's not a matter of if, but just when. Hampton Roads, of course, vulnerable because we're so flood prone. Remember, 90% of hurricane-related deaths involves water, whether from storm surge, floodwaters, or rough surf here. So this afternoon, we caught up with the deputy director of NOAA's National Hurricane Center. They're based in Miami. They're the experts on the hurricanes. The big takeaways from last year and years past continue to be the inland threats of hurricanes, that they're not done as soon as they come ashore. Look at Hurricane Helene last year, for example. Floodwaters devastated western communities or communities to our west. Here in Hampton Roads, it's one of our main concerns with how flood prone the region is. This upcoming hurricane season, the National Hurricane Center really is trying to shift away from the traditional messaging of forecasting to focus more on the impacts to better communicate a storm's threat. So with better accuracy and updated models and better communication, authorities can have more time to order evacuations and help save lives that are lost the most to floodwaters.
Question. Storm surge is really kind of like real estate. It's location, 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 not just elevation. Although elevation is one of the more important factors in storm surge, the shape of the coastline and the bathymetry, and bathymetry is a fancy word for how deep the ocean gets as you move offshore. These are critically important for storm surge, which is why storm surge is so sneaky. It kind of has.
And you heard him mention bathymetry and the shape of the coastline.
Yes.
We know that all too well here, Jeff. In our area here in Hampton Roads, Chesapeake Bay, it's so unique and also so difficult to forecast storm surge around this parts because of all the estuaries, the ins and outs of the Chesapeake Bay. But one thing that we do see a lot of is tidal flooding inside and outside of hurricane season, in the winter, in the spring, those nor'easters. So we have kind of some practice to gauge on how to nail down some of these forecasts.
And just practice also, but just the shape of this area is fascinating. If you're a geek of maps and looking at maps, I mean, just look at the map where we live.
Willoughby Split is an example.
Yes, I mean, all those areas. So we'll take a look at the maps. Let's just show you here how we get those impacts. Thanks, Steve, for that tidal flooding. You get the water that pours into the Chesapeake Bay, way too much water that pours in. It has to go somewhere. It doesn't all go to the northern part of the bay. It sneaks into all of our rivers, all of these little creeks, and into our area. And it's not very mountainous across Hampton Roads. There's only one mountain across Hampton Roads. That's Mount Trashmore. Otherwise, we don't have any mountains. It's flat here, so the water has to go somewhere, and we have big problems with it. So we're always watching for when we have tidal flooding, whether it's from a hurricane tropical storm or just from a northeasterly wind.